"She's not leaving," that's what the woman said to me, blocking her own front door at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like I was the Jehovah's Witness and not the father of the girl bleeding on her living room floor. 65 years old. 2 knee replacements. A blood pressure problem my doctor calls concerning and I call Tuesday. And I went through that door like I was 25 and built like a linebacker. My name's Eddie Leckman. I live in Leesburg, Virginia, Loudoun County, if you want the official version. Quiet Street. The kind with a homeowners association that fines you for leaving your trash can out too long. I've lived there 11 years, raised my daughter Debbie in that house. The one with the crooked mailbox I never got around to fixing. This is the night that mailbox stopped mattering. It was March, cold enough that my breath fogged up the windshield before the defroster kicked in. I remember that detail because I keep replaying it. The fog, the headlights, the 15 minutes it took me to get from my place to the Lancasters' big colonial out in Ashburn. The one with the circular driveway Evelyn Lancaster likes to remind people about. My phone rang at 2:04 a.m. "Dad," Debbie's voice, small, cracked. "Please, come get me." That voice. I hadn't heard that voice since she was 7 years old and scared of the dark. "Debbie, what's wrong? Where's Jamie?" Silence. Then nothing. The call dropped. I didn't even put on real shoes. I drove in the slippers my late wife bought me for Father's Day 8 years ago. Doing 70 on roads that don't forgive 70. When I pulled up, the porch light was on. Evelyn Lancaster, 59 years old. Looks like she irons her bathrobe. Stood in the doorway with her arms crossed like she was guarding the crown jewels. "Eddie." She said my name. "It's late. Debbie's resting. She's fine." Then let me see her. "She's not leaving." 3 words. 3 words, and something in my chest just snapped. "Move." I said, "Excuse me?" I said, "Move." Evelyn. She didn't move. So I did the thing a calmer, smarter version of me would have talked me out of. I put my hand flat on that door and pushed past a 60-year-old woman in her own foyer. Not proud of it. Would do it again tomorrow. Phil Lancaster came out of the kitchen in a robe holding a mug like this was a normal Tuesday morning and not the worst night of my life. Hey, you can't just... I wasn't listening. I was already in the living room, and there she was. My daughter. On the floor. Not the couch. The floor like she'd slid off it and nobody bothered to move her. Her arms had marks on them. Not scratches. Not "I fell." Marks like fingers had been there. Hard. She wasn't moving. "Debbie." My own voice didn't sound like mine. "Debbie. Baby. Look at me." Nothing. I got down on my knees. Knees that scream at me just walking upstairs, and I put my fingers on her neck. Pulse. There. Weak. But there. "What did you do to her?" I turned around. Phil had set the mug down. Smart move, because if he hadn't, I might have used it on him. She had too much wine. Evelyn said fast. Too fast. Like she'd rehearsed it. She gets emotional. You know how she is. She's unconscious on your floor. Evelyn, she's resting. I have never in my life wanted to flip a coffee table over a woman's head until that exact moment. "Where's Jamie?" I asked. Nobody answered. That silence told me more than any answer could have. I scooped my daughter up off that floor, 33 years old, and she weighed nothing. Like she hadn't eaten right in weeks, and I carried her out past both of them. Phil didn't try to stop me. Evelyn did for about half a second, standing in the doorway again like a sequel nobody asked for. "If you take her, Eddie, you don't know what you're starting." I looked her dead in the eye. "Lady, you have no idea what you just started. Welcome to Dad's raw revenge. Get comfortable. This story is going to take you somewhere. Hit that like button and drop a comment below letting me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you're going to love it here. I got Debbie in my truck, a Silverado, 10 years old, smells like coffee and sawdust, and drove her straight to Innivallouden Hospital. Sat in that ER waiting room under those buzzing fluorescent lights, drinking vending machine coffee that tasted like punishment, replaying Evelyn's face in that doorway over and over. She's not leaving. Not she's sick. Not she's sleeping. Not leaving. Like Debbie was a piece of furniture that belonged to the house. A doctor came out around 4 a.m. Young guy. Tired eyes. The kind of tired you only get on overnight shifts. She's stable. Mr. Leachman. Mild concussion, dehydrated, and low blood pressure. We ran a toxicology screen because of her state. What about the bruises on her arms? I asked, my voice tight. Those are finger marks. The doctor sighed, looking at his clipboard. Your daughter woke up briefly while we were prepping her IV. She insists she had a severe panic attack, mixed her anxiety medication with wine, and fell down the stairs, and that her husband was desperately trying to hold her up and stop her from falling. Because she gave a clear, consistent explanation and refused a forensic exam. My hands are legally tied from forcing a police report. But Mr. Leachman, I have done this for a long time. I highly recommend she talks to a domestic crisis counselor. I'm leaving a brochure on her nightstand. I sat with her for 2 days in that hospital, held her hand, watched the monitor beep, thought about every Lancaster family dinner I'd sat through, smiling, eating overpriced crab cakes at that restaurant in Leesburg they liked so much, telling myself Jamie was a decent guy because he had a nice job and a firm handshake. A firm handshake. That's what I based my judgment on. I should have watched his eyes instead. On the second night, Debbie woke up. Really woke up. Eyes open, focused, scared. Dad, I'm here. Baby, you're safe. She grabbed my hand so hard it hurt. Did you go to the house? Did Evelyn, I got you out? That's all that matters right now. She shook her head fast, almost frantic. No. Dad, listen to me. Don't go back there. Don't say anything to Jamie. Don't call a lawyer yet. Please. That stopped me cold. Of all the things I expected her to say, don't fight back wasn't one of them. Debbie, after what they did, I know what they did. Her voice cracked, but her eyes didn't. I've known for months. What do you mean, months? She reached under the hospital blanket and pulled out her phone. Cracked screen, barely hanging on, and turned it toward me. Bank statements, screenshots, months of text messages. If you go after Jamie with your fists, she said, his family's lawyers will bury you and I'll be stuck. We don't hit them. Dad. She looked at me like she'd been waiting years to say this next part. We outsmart them. I want you to imagine 65 years on this earth thinking you finally understand your own kid, and then realizing she's been 3 steps ahead of all of us the entire time. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was angry anymore, because for the first time since that phone call, I had a plan instead of a punch, and the Lancasters had absolutely no idea what was coming. You ever smile at someone while doing the math on exactly how much it'll cost to destroy them? I did, for 3 months straight. That's the thing nobody tells you about revenge, the real kind, not the movie kind. It's slow, it's boring, it's spreadsheets at midnight, and biting your tongue at family dinners while a man who hurt your daughter passes you the breadbasket and says, "Try the rolls, Eddie. Evelyn made them from scratch." I tried the rolls. I smiled. I thought about prison food and wondered if Phil Lancaster would still think his wife's rolls were impressive in a federal holding cell. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Debbie came home with me after the hospital, back to the house in Leesburg, her old room. The one with the same blue curtains from high school. First week, she barely talked. Second week, she started talking too much, fast, like she had to get it all out before she lost her nerve. They altered the framework of the trust, she told me one night. Laptop open on the kitchen table. The same table she used to do algebra homework on. The irrevocable trust Mom set up before she passed held the family real estate assets. 2 years ago, Phil's office drafted an amendment appointing Jamie as a co-trustee with management powers, supposedly to help me manage the properties. They presented it as routine paperwork mixed in with our tax filings. I signed a general acknowledgement page, but they forged my actual signature on the specific authorization page that gave him the power to borrow against the equity. He borrowed against your inheritance. Worse, she rubbed her eyes. He used his co-trustee status to take out 3 massive commercial lines of credit against the trust's land assets to fund his failing development projects. Every time I asked why our distributions were low, Jamie would say the market was unstable and that I needed to trust the family dynamic. Evelyn managed the primary distribution accounts. They completely locked me out of the digital portals. That's when it really hit me. This wasn't a bad marriage. This was a heist. And my daughter was the vault. Okay, I said. So we get a lawyer. We know. She slammed the laptop shut. Phil's firm represents half the judges in this county. Dad, you think we walk into court and win on bank statements alone? They'll say I'm unstable. They'll say I drink. They'll say you assaulted Evelyn breaking into her house. And you did. Technically, she wasn't wrong. That stung more than I wanted to admit. So, what then? We just let them. We make them think they won. She looked at me, dead serious. In a way that reminded me so much of her mother, it knocked the wind out of me. You always wanted to invest in something real after you retired. Land, development, something with your name on it. Debbie, Jamie's been trying to get capital for his new property deal for a year. Phil won't fund it. Too risky. He says, if a respectable, wealthy father-in-law suddenly wanted to make peace and invest serious money into Jamie's project, I saw exactly where she was going. And it scared me more than the punch I never threw. They'd let you in, she said. All the way in. Bank access, contracts, everything. And once I'm in, you find what's actually in that trust. You find what they did, and you make sure there's no lawyer in Loudoun County good enough to talk their way out of it. My daughter, 33 years old, sat at my kitchen table and built a financial trap with the calm of a surgeon. I taught her to ride a bike. When did she learn to do this? The hardest part wasn't the planning. It was the acting. 2 weeks later, I called Phil Lancaster myself, picked up the phone, dialed the number I'd sworn I'd never use again, and said the words that nearly choked me on the way out. Phil, it's Eddie. Listen, I've had time to think. Families fight. I don't want to lose my daughter over this. Can we talk? Dead silence on the line. Then Eddie, glad you called. I think that's the mature thing to do. Mature. He called me mature. I wanted to reach through the phone. We met at a steakhouse off Route 7. One of those places with leather booths and a wine list longer than my arm. Phil ordered the bone-in ribeye. I ordered the same because matching a man's order is a cheap trick. But it works. Makes you look like you're on the same team. Jamie's project, I said, cutting into my steak, keeping my voice slow and easy. The mixed-use development out past Brambleton. I have heard good things. Phil's eyebrows went up. You've been asking around? I'm retired. Phil, I've got time and I've got capital sitting in accounts doing nothing but collecting dust. I want my granddaughter. We didn't have one yet, but I let the lie hang there, soft and warm, exactly where I wanted it. Someday to grow up with family that isn't fractured. He bought it. I watched him buy it. Like watching a fish take the hook and not even feel it yet. What kind of number are we talking? He asked, trying not to sound too eager and failing completely. Enough to make it real. I said, but Phil, I'll be honest with you. If I'm putting my money in, I need to see everything. Books, contracts, the trust structure, all of it. I didn't build what I built by investing blind. He smiled. Big, easy. The smile of a man who thinks he's the smartest person in the room. Eddie, that's just smart business. I respect that. You won't respect it in 3 months. Phil, but sure. Smile now. Getting access took 6 weeks. Lawyers, NDAs. A welcome to the family business dinner where Evelyn actually hugged me. Hugged me. The same woman who blocked her own doorway with her arms crossed like a prison guard and called me part of the team now. Part of the team. Lady, I am the opposing team. You just don't know it yet. Debbie and I worked at night after everyone else was asleep. We'd sit at that same kitchen table, laptop glowing, going line by line through documents Phil's accountant handed over way too easily, because rich men who've never been challenged stop checking the locks on their own doors. We found the trust amendment first, buried in paperwork from 2 years back, a signature that didn't match Debbie's real signature. Not even close. "That's not my handwriting," she said, voice flat, staring at the screen. "Dad, that's not my handwriting." I'd seen her handwriting on every report card, every birthday card, every note she ever left on the fridge. She was right. It wasn't even close. Then we found the loans. 3 of them, taken against property that was supposed to be Debbie's inheritance, used to fund Jamie's last 2 failed business attempts, both of which Phil had quietly covered, then quietly folded into family debt Debbie didn't know she owed. Then we found the real gut punch, a corporate life insurance policy. Jamie had listed Debbie as a silent partner and guarantor on his new LLC for the Brambleton Development Project. Because of that business structure, he was able to take out a multi-million-dollar key person life insurance on her through an online carrier using a forged electronic signature and a dummy email address he controlled. The beneficiary wasn't even his name directly. It was his shell company, meaning it would bypass standard marital scrutiny if something happened to her. I had to leave the kitchen for a minute. I stood on my own back porch in the cold, hands on the railing, and I just breathed. If she had died in that house in March from an accidental overdose of wine and meds, Jamie's failing business would have been instantly injected with millions of dollars in tax-free corporate insurance payouts. I don't finish that thought. I never let myself finish that thought. Jamie started getting nervous around week 8, showed up at my house unannounced one evening, no jacket, hands shoved in his pockets, looking like a man who hadn't slept right in days. "Eddie, can we talk man to man?" "Sure, Jamie. Come on in. Come on in." Like I was happy to see him. I'd gotten so good at lying my own face didn't fight me on it anymore. He sat in my living room, the same living room he used to sit in for Thanksgiving, and rubbed the back of his neck. "I just want to make sure we're good. You and me, Debbie and me. I know things got intense that night. Water under the bridge," I said. Lie number 40-something. I'd lost count. He looked at me for a long second, like he was trying to read something off my face, and for a heartbeat, just one. I thought he saw it. I thought he knew. Then he exhaled, smiled that easy Lancaster smile his dad taught him, and said, "Good, that's good. Eddie, family's everything, right?" "Right," I said. "Family's everything. Tomorrow, Jamie, your family's everything is going to be worth a whole lot less than you think. By week 10, we had it all. Falsified signatures, unauthorized loans, a hidden insurance policy with timing that would make any detective raise an eyebrow, tax filings that didn't add up across 3 years, a trust that had been quietly bled dry by a family that smiled through every dinner while doing it. Debbie printed the final folder herself. Her hands were steady, steadier than mine. "There's a deal closing meeting in 2 weeks," she said. "Jamie's finalizing the inheritance transfer with Phil's lawyer. They think it's the last piece. They think they've already won. They think wrong." "Then that's the day," I said. She looked at me, and for the first time in months, my daughter actually smiled. Not the careful, surviving smile she'd worn since the hospital, but something real. "That's the day," she repeated. 2 weeks, 14 days until the Lancasters walked into a room expecting to take everything and walked out with nothing left to take. I'd waited 65 years to feel this kind of calm before a storm. It was worth every second. If you've been with me for a bit and you're enjoying these stories, drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button while you're at it, and be sure you're subscribed. They walked into that conference room thinking they were about to sign away the last piece of my daughter's life. They walked out, signing away their own. 2 weeks. That's how long I had to sit on everything we found and act like nothing was wrong. 2 weeks of family group texts about Sunday dinner. 2 weeks of Evelyn sending me recipes I never opened. 2 weeks of Phil calling me partner on the phone like the word didn't make my skin crawl. Patience. My wife used to tell me patience was my weakest muscle. I spent 2 weeks building it like a man training for a fight he couldn't afford to lose. The night before the meeting, Debbie and I sat at the kitchen table one last time. Folders everywhere. Coffee gone cold. Her laptop opened to an email she drafted 3 times and deleted 3 times. "You sure about this?" I asked her. She didn't look up right away. When she did, her eyes were wet, but her jaw was set the way it used to get in high school. Right before she'd walk into a tryout she had no business being nervous about, and then make the team anyway. "I called you at 2 a.m. because I thought I was going to die in that house." "Dad," her voice didn't shake. "I'm not scared of a conference room. That's my girl. That's exactly my girl." The meeting was set for 10 a.m. at Phil's law office in Leesburg. Top floor, big windows, a view of Market Street he liked to brag about, mahogany table, bottled water nobody drinks lined up like soldiers. The whole show designed to make people feel small. Phil walked in first, suit pressed, smile loaded. Evelyn behind him in pearls. Like this was a luncheon and not a robbery. Jamie last, hands in his pockets, looking for the first time in years. Almost nervous. Maybe some part of him knew. Men like Jamie always know. Somewhere underneath the cologne and the confidence. They just don't let themselves believe it until it's too late. "Eddie. Debbie." Phil spread his arms like we were old war buddies. "Glad we could all finally get this settled. Big day." "Big day," I agreed. "You have no idea. Phil." We sat. Phil's attorney, slick, young, watch too expensive for a man that age, slid the final transfer documents across the table toward Debbie. "Just need your signature here, Debbie, and here," the lawyer said, tapping the page. "This finalizes the trust transfer to Jamie's development account. Should have been done months ago. Honestly." Debbie didn't pick up the pen. "Before I sign anything," she said, calm, steady, "I want to ask a question." Phil's smile flickered, just barely. "Of course, sweetheart." "Whose handwriting is this?" She slid a printed page across the table. The original trust amendment. The one with the signature that wasn't hers. Silence. Beautiful silence. The kind of silence rich people aren't used to sitting in. "That's your signature." "Debbie," Evelyn said. "Too fast." The same too fast voice from that doorway in March. "You signed that yourself." "I didn't." Debbie's voice cracked just slightly. Not from weakness, from rage held on a very short leash. "I've never seen this document before today." Debbie didn't pick up the pen. Instead, she leaned back. "I'm not signing it. Phil, and I think your lawyer needs to check the hallway." Before Phil could speak, the heavy mahogany doors opened. 2 investigators from the Virginia State Police Financial Crimes Unit walked in, accompanied by a representative from the Commonwealth's Attorney Office. We had spent 3 weeks coordinating this, by allowing Phil and Jamie to bring these specific transfer documents, which relied on the forged trustee amendments, to a formal closing. They had just committed grand larceny and uttering a forged document right in front of us. "What is the meaning of this?" Phil's attorney stood up, his expensive watch flashing. "This is a private corporate meeting, not anymore." "Counselor," the lead investigator said, "presenting a formal search and seizure warrant. We have an active criminal investigation into grand larceny, identity fraud, and institutional embezzlement regarding the Leachman Trust. Because your firm facilitated the filing of these forged instruments within Loudoun County, we are here to secure all physical and digital records relating to the Lancaster Development Group and this trust account. Nobody leaves this room until our team clones the server data." Jamie's face went white. White like a man watching his own coffin get measured. I almost laughed. Almost. 65 years old, and I had to bite the inside of my cheek to keep a straight face. Here's the part I want you to really sit with. Phil Lancaster. The man who looked at me across a steakhouse table and called me mature for not punching his son, turned to me with his face the color of old paper. Eddie, you did this. No, Phil. I leaned forward, slow, calm, the calmest I'd felt in 3 months. You did this 2 years ago. I just turned the lights on. Evelyn stood up so fast her chair nearly tipped. You used us. You smiled at our table. You ate at our house. She wanted me to feel guilty. Lady, I felt guilty for exactly 4 seconds back in March pushing past you in that doorway. That guilt's long gone now. You blocked the door, I said, looking right at her with my daughter unconscious on your floor, and told me she wasn't leaving. You don't get to talk to me about what people deserve. She had nothing. For the first time since I'd met that woman, Evelyn Lancaster had absolutely nothing to say. Jamie tried one last move. Of course he did. Men like him always think charm is a get-out-of-jail card. Debbie, he turned to her, voice soft. The same voice he probably used the very first time he ever lied to her. Baby, you know I love you. Whatever they think they found, we can talk about this. Just us, baby. He called her baby, after everything. I had to physically grip the edge of the table. Debbie looked at him for a long moment, long enough that the whole room held its breath, including me. Then she slid the divorce filing across the table. Already drafted, already signed, dated for that morning. I called my dad at 2 a.m. because I was scared I was going to die in your parents' house. Jamie, her voice didn't waver once. There's no version of Just Us anymore. There never will be again. She stood up. Oh, and the insurance policy you took out on me? She tapped the folder. Already reported. Already flagged. Hope that development deal was worth it. If I live to be 100, I will never forget the sound this room made. Nothing. Dead silence. The sound of 3 people realizing all at once that the game had already ended before they sat down. It took 4 months for everything to fully unravel after that day. The kind of slow, satisfying collapse you don't get in movies, but you sure as hell feel in real life. The trust amendment got thrown out the moment a handwriting expert confirmed the forgery. Every dollar moved out of Debbie's inheritance got frozen, traced, and eventually clawed back through the fraud investigation. Every cent with interest. Phil's law firm opened an internal review into his conduct that ended with him quietly stepping back from the partnership for personal reasons, which is lawyer speak for we can't be seen near this guy anymore. Jamie's development deal collapsed within weeks once his funding sources saw federal investigators sniffing around his name. Word travels fast in Loudoun County. Real estate's a small world, and nobody wants to shake hands with a man under investigation for insurance fraud against his own wife. Evelyn lost the one thing I think she actually cared about more than money. The image. The dinner stopped. The invitation stopped. Word gets around a county like this fast, and the family that tried to steal from their own daughter-in-law doesn't exactly get you a seat at the country club table anymore. Debbie got her inheritance back, all of it, plus damages. She filed for divorce the same week. It was finalized 5 months later on a quiet Tuesday. No drama. No lawyers raising their voices, just paperwork and a judge's signature, which was somehow more satisfying than any courtroom shouting match could have ever been. I picked her up from the courthouse that day. Same Silverado, same coffee and sawdust smell. She got in, buckled her seatbelt, and just breathed for a second. A real breath, the kind you don't realize you've been missing until it finally comes back to you. You okay? I asked. Yeah. She looked out the window at the courthouse getting smaller in the side mirror. Yeah. Dad, I'm okay. 6 months earlier, I'd carried this girl out of a house at 2 o'clock in the morning, not knowing if she'd wake up. Now she was walking out on her own 2 feet, richer, freer, and stronger than every single person who ever tried to keep her small. I didn't say anything else the whole drive home. Didn't need to. Some victories are loud. Courtrooms, headlines, big dramatic speeches. Ours was quiet. Just an old man driving his daughter home in his slippers turned real shoes. knowing the people who hurt her were going to spend the rest of their lives picking up the pieces of what they tried to take. They thought money made them untouchable. Turns out all it took to bring them down was one furious father, one brilliant daughter, and 2 years of their own greed finally catching up to them. And honestly, watching them fall was worth every second of pretending to like Evelyn's dinner rolls. I know you're one of the good ones who love seeing toxic people get a dose of real justice. Hit that subscribe button, and drop a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. I will see you on the next one.